Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Diablo 4 video. In this one, we're going to talk about the high-end, super min-max geared Minion Necromancer versus Uber Lilith. It's a goal of mine that I've had to become the world's first killer for Uber Lilith in Diablo 4 with this type of pure Necromancer. It is using Ring of Mendel, so how pure it actually is, it's up for debate. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of that. Either way, we've been spending the last 2 streams trying to push this hard. I spent about 10.5 hours consistently on her today alone. A guy in our chat called CinityX was actually the one to collect the world first kill for Uber Lilith on this build. I'm going to show you his footage, and I'm going to show you how close we were on beating it today as well. Obviously, in the next stream, I'll definitely be downing her. No! Definitely. No copium at all. Anyways, let me show you the footage of her kill, and I'm going to show you the close encounter we had, and I'm going to talk about the build that I'm running, which is slightly different than what he's running. I do believe I'm pulling a little bit more DPS, but I also think my gear is slightly above what he was wearing. There's a lot of RNG into this, but before I talk about that, let's show you the clips of it, and I'll talk about the build, the pros and cons, and the entire fight itself. And in the descriptions below, I'll have a written guide for the high-end version of the Minion build listed for you on Icyvane's website. So let's crack into it. So here is the footage from Zinity doing Lilith Uber with minions. World First by Cinity. I just want you to rewind a little bit back here and show you that the very last thing that happens when she is dead is that she goes to the top left corner. After this, there is no orbs, there is nothing. All you have to do is just pop your blood mist and walk in here and you are done. Now let me show you my best attempt. No! 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 Yeah, that happened after many, many, many hours. Anyways, so we've been spending a lot of time on this. I'm going to talk about the build real quick, which is a little bit different than what Synity is running and the amount of RNG. I'm going to utilize Synity's footage, courtesy to Synity to allow us to use the footage. But first things first, I'm going to go through the gear and everything of this character, and then I'm going to talk about the RNG of the fight, of what makes this so frustrating, especially for minions. But let's go through the gear first. So obviously we're going to use a 1 because we, as you can see, we're using a lot of CDR stacking with our Board and Decrepify, which allows us to consistently go back into the Blood Mist quite a lot, which is the easiest way to deal with the waves. In here we have a Conceited, and the important stats is obviously all stats, intelligence, crit damage, and vuln damage. And on our offhand, it is a offhand farmed by Priestess Quinn, located right there. I have a video on how to farm that, linked in the descriptions below. Now, this is a re-rolled for maximum top rolled critical strike damage, and in here we're using a Plunging Darkness. You can use this from the Codex. The damage it does is completely irrelevant, so it doesn't really matter. But important part here is high item power, but most importantly, high lucky hit chance. So that's the offhand. The ring, obviously, the better the ring amendment, the more damage you'll do. The biggest hits I've seen is about 10 to 10.8 million, which is absolutely insane, and the damage coming from us, not our minions. This is not a great ring amendment, but it is a rather good one. The other ring we're using is Blighted. This is to create those insane damage numbers, which happens after our Shadow Blight key passive has triggered 10 times, which means you have to hit something 100 times before this triggers, and you get a big damage increase for 6 seconds. Since this is all about bursting and timing is key, this is a very good modifier for us to use. Modifiers on the ring itself is crit strike chance, lucky hit, crit damage, vuln damage. On the amulet, we are running the Grasping Veins for increased critical strike chance and crit damage from our corpse tendrils, together with cooldown reduction and willpower and movement speed, very important movement speed, which is not really high roll, but the amulets are very hard to come by. And there's ranks to amplify. You can use ranks to Fueled by Death as well as a few other modifiers to get this type of damage. The helmet is basically just life armor, cooldown reduction, and then I use the sorcerer to reroll the lucky hit chance while you have a barrier. This is not shown in my tooltip, which I'll show you in a bit, but you get another 12% lucky hit on my gear here. We're using Explosive Mist on this to make our Blood Mist create corpse explosions, which will generate the Miasma corpse explosion without it being on our action bar. Next up is a Bloodgetter chest piece. We are not using Disobedience. We're taking away all sorts of defenses for this because if it's Uber Lilith, we will either get one shot or we'll kill her. In here, we do have some damage reduction and life, such as armor, damage reduction close, and damage reduction when enemies are affected by shadow. Honestly, I don't think you'll need much of this. Instead, I think you're better off running some sort of stats on the chest piece, but we're running Bloodgetter. And the gloves, we're using Aussie's Gale. This is to increase the uptime of our Bone Storm, which is going to give us 20% critical strike chance and 15% damage reduction. Modifiers will be lucky hit chance, very important. Critical strike chance, also very important. And I'm using intelligence, and the reason I went for willpower was because I wanted to hit a certain threshold for my Paragon board, which I have since changed. The pants are using Shielding Storm, allows us to get a barrier, which then will obviously initiate the damage increase from Conceited from our weapon. And they are also having ranks to Blood Mist to reduce the cooldown of our Blood Mist. Obviously, I'm lacking 1 level here, so they're not great, but they're good enough. Life, armor, and damage reduction. The damage reduction while fortified might not be the best one because we're not always fortified, especially not versus Uber Lilith, but for mapping it's really nice. Boots, they should have more movement speed, which, as you saw in the clip earlier, if I had better movement speed on these boots, I would actually have killed her, but I didn't, so here we are. Running intelligence ranks the corpse tendrils for the cooldown reduction, and I couldn't afford rolling more on the boots because my amulet costs 66.5 million per roll right now, and I'm completely freaking broke. Obviously, dodge chance is not too bad, but having other stats, like all stats, would help you with more damage output. But in the end, I have way more damage than I'll ever need for this fight. It's all about RNG. Quick rundown of the skill tree. Do keep in mind as we go through this that these things might change into the written build guide I'll be posting in the later descriptions below. And this video serves more as a gameplay footage and generic stuff of what I've been showing and doing right now. But we are going to be changing things if need be. We're putting 2 points in whatever here in the basic because we're not using that. And then we're putting 1 point in Blight all the way into the Supernatural. 3 points in Hued Flesh. Getting the Minion Masteries here. We're putting 1 point in the Blood Mist. The rest comes from our leggings. You don't have to put in more because of the diminishing returns. getting the ghastly for the blood mist, generating a corpse for those explosions, 1 point to corpse explosion into the blighted. We don't need to do damage to these things, they just need to trigger lucky hits. Obviously, we go for Bone Prison into the Vulnerable, because the Bone Prison, the way it works is completely insane with the approach of the Plunging Darkness, which we have in our offhand, which allows us to trigger the lucky hits consistently through the uptime of our Bone Prison. Only 1 point in Grim Harvest, because we don't ever use our Essence that much, and then 3 points in Fueled by Death. 3 points Death's Embrace, 3 points Amplify, and then 1 point in Decrepify into the cooldown reduction Abhorrent, again Skeleton Mastery, and then we're running 1 point in the Corpse Tendrils into the Vulnerable. This is our main source of vulnerability, and we're doing that with Corpse Tendrils, which should be resetting quite often. 3 points in Necrotic Carapace, since our skeletons are the Reapers generating corpses. This is how we get Fortify, not something you'll see too much during the Uber Lilith fight. 3 points Reaper Pursuit for that extra movement speed during the uptime of our dots on the enemies. We also put 1 point into Crippling Darkness for a faster stagger rate on the boss. The problem with Crippling Darkness is that it doesn't really trigger very often, but even if it only triggers once or twice during each phase, that itself will still help us get the stagger rate much faster. So I did choose to take 1 point away from the Inspiring Leader to put in here. In here, we're maximizing Bodynesses and Deaths and Defense. These are the main sources here. The 2 points in Inspiring Leader is completely irrelevant because the attack speed of our minions is completely useless. You can put these literally wherever you want. I'm considering to put them into Corpse Tendrils or even more into Blood Mist instead of having these 2 points. Again, I'm not sure what I'll do there. Obviously, we're running Bone Storm and then Shadow Blight because we are going to be dealing the damage. 10% multiplicative increase damage is very, very nasty. Paragon Board, we are in a position where we are going to rush out on the right-hand side and pick up Amplify. This gives us 10% multiplicative damage to our cursed enemies, and we're going to be rushing out through the nodes here. You only pick up the willpower if you need it to reach thresholds of bonus modifiers, such as this one requires 250. It's going to be a much higher up top. Next board is a Scent of Death board, which we're going to pick up damage against healthy, but also the extra life here on the right-hand side, and damage against injured on the left side. We have critical strike damage, which is very important for the build, and run to the glyph socket where we're going for a Scourge glyph. Now, the bonus for the willpower is completely irrelevant, but the bonus modifier giving us 10% multiplicative damage against enemies that are affected by shadow damage over time is what we're looking for. We'll also be picking up Preservation for some extra armor, which translates to our minions, and damage to injured. So this board doesn't really do much more than give us some generic damage that's conditional outside of the crit we get here on the corrective on the right-hand side. Once this is done, we have the possibility to go on the left-hand side for the Essence Glyph. This gives us 22% multiplicative damage where enemies are below 85%. So once the enemy is below 85%, that's when you see insane damages. The bonus attributes here will give us the increased damage with core skills, completely irrelevant. Same thing here, we're going to pick up all the nodes here, only take the dexterity if you need to achieve that bonus modifier, which we have, and we're taking targeted, which is damage to elites. Left-hand side, we get Flesh Eater for more damage to corpse consumption, and we're taking damage and crit damage to injured enemies. On the right-hand side, we're going for a Wither board. This gives us some extra HP, and on this side, we have damage against enemies that are affected by shadow damage over time, and elite damage. This is one of the most insane modifiers we can pick up right now. And the glyph socket here is going to be a Corporeal. A Corporeal is giving us, again, multiplicative damage modifiers with physical damage, and the Ring of Mendel is fist damage. In here, we also take some extra intelligence to achieve this bonus, and other than that, we are picking up some extra intelligence from this side as well, and other than that, it's completely irrelevant what we take in this radius. Next up is a Bloodbath board, which we're going to socket in Exploit. Now, Exploit, we do benefit from having vulnerable damage, so we will be taking up every single dexterity that we can in this area, as well as extra invulnerable damage and damage whilst fortified, which doesn't happen too often, which is why I didn't care about the extra dexterity to achieve the bonus modifier from this specific rare node. Last board is obviously going to be a Cult Leader. Now, Cult Leader is completely irrelevant for us, but we are going here because of the damage reduction for our minions and using a Dead Razor, which will actually, thanks to the bonus modifier, give us increased multiplicative damage versus enemies that our minions have dealt damage to. So we will be picking that up, but other than that, it's mainly to get a little bit of damage reduction, but thanks to the Death's Defense, they are not getting one shot. So that's basically the current iteration of the build. I think that for the next round, I will be taking away these 2 points from Inspiring Leader, and I'll shove both of them into this. As you can see, the cooldown goes down by almost a second. I think that's worth it. So we'll try that out in the future. So I'm going to go back to the footage and show you the fight that Affinity X was doing and show you some, or talk about some RNG features or situations. So when the fight starts, you have to bring her down to certain thresholds. There's a problem with her that if you deal too much damage, so she's about 35% HP left, she will spawn 2 adds and then start doing the waves. That is the last wave patterns, the triangles and circles. If she does that, you have bugged the fight and you have to suicide because she will be infinitely doing the waves and you can't progress. If you get her down to that HP before the ad spawns, she will spawn 3 ads, which is the last initial stage that she does before she can die, if you will, and go into the phase 2. So that would be the optimal stage. What Affinity did was he brought her down to, let's see if you can watch the footage here real quick. So you can see her HP. She's down pretty low, and that's before the ad. So here's before the ad spawns, right? So in this stage, as you can see here, in that initial fight, he brought her down low enough so she spawned 3 of these guys. These 3 guys indicates that she's now ready to go into phase 2. So by killing these, she's now into phase 2. You're good. If she only spawns 2, you're fucked. You gotta have to suicide and restart the process. Obviously, because this damage is all about triggering Ring of Mendel, it is a heavy RNG-based situation. You might not get that. You might bug the fight. And if that's the case, you're going to have to start dodging things. The other problem, which is not seen in this footage, which is not seen in any of the footage where phase 1 is transitioned very smoothly, is that if you are unable to achieve that, you have to obviously do the fight. And that can be a bit rough because the more times she does the wave, eventually your minion's going to start dying. You have to start resummoning them, which is very, very annoying as you're dodging the fight. And the problem then comes when you don't have the correct abilities or the positioning required to kill the blood orbs, because you can't make your minions target something even with the curse change they did, which means that if you don't kill those blood orbs in time, you will die. Solution, pop blood mist. You won't die, but now your minions will die. If there's multiple blood orbs, you're done. Restart the fight. There's a lot of these RNG factors into this fight that was absolutely super frustrating, and that doesn't even begin to cover the phase 2 problems. Now, if you bring her low enough, she will go, her first wave will go downwards, and the top side will just be gone. If you don't bring her down to about 75% HP, she will then go upwards, and there's a pool up here, which you should be able to see in this footage pretty soon. Let's see if we, yeah, you see this pool here? She's flying upwards. This is what happens if you don't bring her down to 75% before she flies. And what then happens is that she's going to pop these. These flying red balls, they will one-shot you. So what he's doing, as you can see, his blood mist is on cooldown. He's going to step to the left and pop that immediately because these 2 fireballs, they're going to one-shot him. So he has to pop the blood mist immediately. Now, if you don't do this, she's going to go down. And as you can see, he's about to be staggered. So there's a lot of RNG here as well with what happens. And now you can't be too soon in this zone. And if you pop blood mist too early and you're in here, that shit's gonna kill you before the damage of this zone is over. Now he managed to do this cleanly, and now he's just kiting these because they're gonna one-shot him. At this point, Lilith is gonna run down, and because of the stagger, she's gonna get staggered here. So what he does is immediately popping into blood mist through these forms and then going straight into the boss, being immune to the damage of these things, and now you have a stagger. Now, this is the best opportunity to do a ton of damage. Problem is, these guys get hit by the bolts, they get one shot, so he doesn't have full army. So now he has to spend his best damage sequence in setting everything up and resummoning minions, which means he does almost no damage, and most of his damage comes after the stagger. Now, what happens now is that she's going to run up to the top right corner. As you can see, the top side is already done. And now as he moves up to the top right, what's going to happen now is he bursts damage into the sequence. This blood orb down here is going to rapid fire tons of these one-shot mechanic, which obviously has to be dodged. So as you can see here, he's going to be doing as much damage as possible. When this orb comes close to the boss, he's going to pop blood mist. There's the blood mist. Now he's going to run into this. Again, if he popped it too soon, he's going to die to the damage in here. If he popped it too late, this is going to kill him. He moves into this sequence, and now she is going to be running downwards. So as you can see here, now she pops this little sucky face. If you get hit by this sucky, you can get pulled into one of these and get one shot. Again, another layer of RNG. His blood mist is ending, so he's not going to go in there. Instead, he's going to step out and let the minions tank that hit. It's fine. As you can see, they're not getting one shot. Now he can go in and finish her off and actually have her so-called dead. Now all he has to do is survive the fight, which is what might fail on my clip at the end up here. So now that she's dead, she's going to do that one last wave. She's going straight up, and in this, he now has to do the same thing. He has to survive this little shit, pop the blood mist, and go straight in here. And all he has to do now is just stay alive, and the fight's over. And that's basically how the fight is. It's just so many layers of RNG and lack of control from minions, making this so frustrating to do. I've been at this for several days, and I almost had it today. Cinity, big congratulations to you, and GG on the race there. It was really nice to see you progress that and get the world first. We almost had it. Even if I did kill it there, it wouldn't have been world first, but I'm gonna get it next days coming. But that's the Uber Lilith fight with Minion Necro. Do check out the build guide, link to the descriptions below. Hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and let me know what you guys think in the comment actually about this fight or minions in general, because I've been so frustrated after multiple hours trying to do this. But I will do it. I'll see you guys in the stream, twitch.tv/GHAZZY TV, and I'll see you there. Till then, stay safe. Keep rocking.